One more thing to add that I'm going to put here at the beginning is that during my run this morning, I noticed that yesterday the construction crew that were working on the water pipes that happened to just burst our pipes to this apartment building on one of the days of the potential judgments, and had us go the whole weekend, or was it? Yeah, I think it was no, it was a day. So it wasn't the weekend, so it would have been on Thursday, and then Friday they got it back up and running, or whatever the day was when I did the video. They finished, they cemented over things and such, and today most likely they'll be pulling out once the cement dries. Also on the 6th, one of the tenants who has been purposely kept here finally has been evicted, and he got moved to another building by a separate agency that helped him find a new place to live. And so that also occurred as we were expecting any time a final judgment that I am going over in this video. Also, the new guy from this other agency who has been forced to be here, which has been a long-running argument and contention, which was included in my lawsuit as the threats to my life. They go all the way back to the 2008 case. He has not shown this week, which is interesting. Because last week he was seeming like he was going to make himself a permanent fixture, and now he's gone. What happened? I mean, he is young enough. Maybe he got down with the sickness. As the sickness is being reported as hitting the 20-year-olds, 20-somethings, pretty hard, as they are a bigger carrier group, spreading it faster and quicker than any other group, as well as having them get hit hard with it. What people don't seem to realize is that the coronavirus damages your lungs. Even though you maybe have immunity to counteract it, it still does damage to our bodies. People are taking months to recover. But anyway, on with the video. Travis Wayne Goodsill. I guess you can call this the pre-game show for my objection. If you've been following the case, as I see that interest is waning, despite this being the biggest case that nobody knows about, and nobody understands because they're not doing an investigation behind the scenes. Or maybe my viewers are in on it, that all of you are spies, except for the few who are putting likes on a regular basis. So, a backstory. After Judge Oberg took over, she immediately began to deny my motions, and so I tried to oppose them, and she would shut me down. Turns out that she was not comprehending that I had been denied service of process, and so there was no method of communication with all parties to harmonize in that matter. I do not have the code to file electronically and receive notification electronically. And so, despite this disadvantage, of which was supposed to be remedied because I'm the pro se litigant filing in form of pauperous, and I'm not supposed to be discriminated against for being at a disadvantage, not having gone to law school, graduated with a law degree, passed the bar, got licensed, hired by a company, etc. I'm supposed to be given leeway according to the rules. However, Judge Oberg made an order that I have had 2 weeks back to June 14th, I think, to file an amended reply. She did nothing to the defense counsel's motion for a motion to dismiss, as that's the order. Is first you have the courts screen the cases that come in, the complaints, and mine was to be dismissed. And on November 1st, 2019, I pointed out to Judge First, as she was about to order to dismiss my case, that I was given an extension when I informed her that the church had been paying the person that had me disappeared. So I filed the amended complaint. It had been approved. The clerks verified, yep, this is the proper filing. The judge allowed it as the proper filing, though she never ordered a motion to serve, process, or to motion to serve. And still a little exhausted, back from my run. So, and so she goes to the end of her term, having been fired, being assigned to my case after she was fired. As everybody else was recusing her, she refused to respond to my request for recusals. Refused to respond as I pointed out crimes being committed to cover up the crimes being committed and the death threats that were given to me. She just remained silent. So the new person comes in, Oberg, and dismisses. Just hastily dismisses. The case had already been approved. And what she was doing was dismissing my counter reply. So she's already accepted my complaint. She's already accepted the motion to dismiss without checking either of those. And so she goes straight for my counter reply. And I file the amended complaint, and she goes silent. She's no longer hasty. She takes over a month, and then I file further evidence of criminal behavior, along with a motion to speed up the case. She then responds with another denial and a report and recommendation that I no longer be allowed to petition, and that my case be dismissed with prejudice, that the church can no longer be sued by me for any wrongdoing they've done. And so now I'm given an opportunity, which according to, I think it was Rule 41 on objecting, the judge is not required to do that. So why is she doing that, allowing me to object? Because what she has done is denied everything on my side and allowed the church to get away with 24 days late, saying it's a frivolous case when it's already been approved as not frivolous. She's acting in conduct unbecoming. Let me write that down. Conduct unbecoming. Now remember, she's brand new. And Mormons even have a scripture about those who are in authority for the first time. It is the nature and disposition of almost all men, as soon as they get a little authority as they suppose, they begin to commit unrighteous dominion. That may not be an exact quote, but it's, I think, close. All men know it, because all men are accused of violating it, as we are constantly reminded by those who are violating it in the church that we're the ones instead violating it. We're supposed to, So, anyway, what I find interesting is that on the day of fulfillment of the sign in the heaven that I had previously told about, so you guys have evidence that I previously told you of the sign in heaven, of the judgment, and I even found out after the fact that I was missing information, as there was a lunar eclipse, a penumbral lunar eclipse. I wish I would have known that, because I was thinking it was a full moon, and it is, but it was eclipsed, which went against me. I wish I would have known that. Should have done my research beforehand. Didn't. But anyway, she files her report and recommendation first. Now this is where I think I'm going to be able to expose her. Again, this is a preliminary report. I still have to wait for these documents, which I'm expecting today. At 3:12 p.m., she files the report and recommendation to dismiss my case and with prejudice, and she denies 13, the motion for summary judgment, which is interesting. Denies 29, motion for immediate final judgment. And then she then says I have, the parties have 14 days. As if the church is going to object. As if the church is going to confess and say, yeah, we sort of did confess, Your Honor. Travis had it right when he said that we confessed. But, not likely that the church is going to follow their own counsel to Mormons and do the right thing or choose the right. And so here again she threatens me, saying failure to object may constitute waiver of objections. Now this is what I was going over for their motion to dismiss. They failed to file on time. And here she is, now throwing it in my face, saying that if I fail to object in 14 days of service, which was Monday, that I then am in default. This was the whole argument, that the church lawyers are in default. They failed to serve me. They then confessed to being late to serve me. Ta-da! And so I want to see what she uses as her justification for an act of treason. And I'll get to my main argument before knowing what's on her mind. But then, after she filed, 5 minutes later, she then files an order denying 27. Wait a minute, you already gave your report and recommendation. You're supposed to do these next two orders before this report and recommendation. She did not. I might be able to get her on this. So 31, she orders denying 27, the motion for disbarment and disciplinary action, and doesn't give reason, as previously she's done, and that was 5 minutes later. Then, an hour and 14 minutes after her report and recommendation, her order denying 28, motion to strike, amended motion to strike. So she's already given a report and recommendation before denying the amended motion that she ordered me to provide. And I think I got her on that, because she was supposed to file that first before she can then give a report and recommendation. But again, it's on the docket. So again, what is she doing? I mean, it's not a clerk error. The 31 filed 5 minutes late, maybe a clerk error, maybe the clerks, had the order denying on top or on the bottom, and the report for recommendation was on top. I can see that. But an hour and 14 minutes later, the order denying 28? No, that's not a clerk error there. Unless there was an emergency, like somebody pulled the fire alarm. No. That would make the news if somebody pulled the fire alarm. But, I think I've got her on that one. But this is the outline for my objection. Is one, I have to establish her bias for the defense. I will be using her failed history as a federal public defender. I went over the video with the two cases that I had found, Tibbetts and I can't remember the other, Porter. And both of those cases, she was rejected. Tibbetts was by a jury. The jury sided against her arguments in that case. The Porter one, that was by Judge Benson, who shut her down. She's got compromise. That's why she was hired. Because they want her, with her failed experience, to step in as a brand new judge, replacing the one they fired for daring to allow a case against the church to go forward, to now dismiss a case against the church. And they've got compromat on her. That's the Russian word, if you haven't been paying attention to the news during a certain executive's presidency. And so the next step would be to show that she has violated my constitutional rights, she has violated the laws of the United States, and the rules of court process and procedure. I've already gone over that. She's been denying everything. And so again, my right in the Constitution, First Amendment, to petition the government for a redress of grievances. This is being denied to me. It has been approved. She herself has approved it, and yet at the same time approving the motion to dismiss, which you can't do both. She should have immediately recognized my complaint and done that. So again, she's violating the rules of process and procedure. And so she purposely caused the problem because of her bias that I've already established. And so then I would go into, now that she's shown bias for the defense and violated the Constitution, laws, and rules, I can then show that she's a co-conspirator in this case. She was given an opportunity to recuse, because if she's got compromise on her, if she was said, hey, we'll give you this job, but you need to do us a favor though. If she's said, I'm sorry, I will not betray my country in order to have this job. She was given an opportunity to do that. She failed to do that. And she did not stand up to the defense. She did not look at the motion to dismiss and say, hey, wait a minute, everything seems to be in order with the complaint. Why then is the motion to dismiss calling it frivolous if the court has already approved it as legitimate? She did not do that. Instead, she chose compliance to the extortion that she was presented with. And that's what it is. Even though she may be a willing participant, she was still extorted for this job. And so that's the third level that I will be showing. And then with those three foundations, those three grounds, then I will show that she too has committed an act of treason against the United States of America. Now this is separate from the case, which I am not being allowed to present. This is her actions in being assigned to this case that show that she has committed treason. This now helps my case. If the judge is committing treason for the defendant who is on trial or being accused of treason themselves, among other crimes, capital crimes. As Governor Herbert was thrown into the mix on the final report that she dismisses in the report and recommendation. And so again, her filing 1 hour and 14 minutes after, which is right before the clerk's office closed on Monday, she then files the denial after she's already sent the recommendation and report. So, and that's also what I need to check, is if I need to also send the district judge a filing of my objection, because it seems like it, because it says magistrate judge respectfully recommends the district judge grant the following. And she doesn't include 32 in that. And but yet she terminates 28, motion for final judgment with prejudice, which she failed to put in her report and recommendation, which yeah, interesting. She is motion for summary judgment. She is purposely withholding information from the district judge. Withholding info. Because he's not going to be going over the docket. He's only going to go what comes at his desk. And the report and recommendation is going to come before his desk. And even though he should recognize 29, he should be referring to the docket, but is he likely to? I doubt it. And so, yeah, that I'm going to have to send it to him as well. But, yeah, I'm exposing her in this for her compromise and thus compliance, rather than having the opportunity to say, no, if I'm being used by the defense to keep my job, I don't want any part of this. She chose not to. So, yeah, here we go. It's only 5 o'clock now. So coronavirus has really taken a toll on the Kearns post office. We keep seeing the trainees follow the new guys on our route, and that means that people keep losing their job, either because they can't handle the job, which it's pretty simple. I've done it myself, as I was disappeared by the church as a federal officer with the Postal Service. So yeah, that's also being denied. They're covering up a whole list of crimes, and it was included in my complaint. This is the injustice that is going on, to cover up for the church, to let them get away with the crimes that they themselves have been caught being guilty of. I also have a couple other videos planned. There's a doctrinal dilemma when Brigham Young had claimed Adam was Heavenly Father. There's some confusion in doctrine with that, which is why the church has had to deny ever the knowing of that existence. That Brigham Young, all that, the people writing about it, they didn't know what they were talking about, despite Brigham Young constantly claiming over and over again that, yes, that is what I'm talking about. And he put it in the temple endowment that he created, along with the scantily clad women, which I think would have been perfectly fine to continue as a man. But women today get very upset over men's natures, and get upset with men when men point out women's natures. We need to stop the abuse of each other, women and men. We need to have proper sex ed. And so that's one that I had planned for today. It depends on whether I can get to it before the mail comes. The other one is that Brigham Young knew Joseph Smith was presenting himself as the Messiah of the latter days. Now, if you're thinking in a Christian mindset, you're going, blasphemy! I knew Joseph Smith was evil. No, guys, not Christian, Jewish. There's a reason why the Jews do not accept the Christian Jesus. But the Smiths believed the Christian Jewish. That's why they say in the Book of Mormon, this is to the convincing of the Jews and the Gentiles, who are the Christians in America, that Jesus is the Christ. Why do the Gentiles who are Christian need to be convinced that Jesus is the Christ? Don't they already know it? Don't they go around confessing he is? And so, yeah, the Book of Mormon is encoded. And then another one is there is a ton of Joseph Smith's prophecies that he would be murdered and the church would fall into apostasy and then fall. Here's the notes on that. All of the scripture references. There's a lot, even though I'm able to write small enough to fit them all on one little post-it note. So those are 3 videos that I don't know if I'm going to get to, but just to give you a heads up.